Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Brews. I am your host, Commander Claw. You know, I like to give you cards that I think are commanders that are super popular, unpopular, whatever it is. I'm trying to bring new cards. But today I'm kind of reviewing the most common EDH recommended cards for Zedruu the Greathearted. Zedruu the Greathearted is such a niche commander that they haven't made enough new cards that are applied to its strengths. So I'm going to review a lot of the major cards, but I got a sprinkle of other cards that are not recommended that you actually might need to utilize with this deck. So, but first, let's introduce Zedruu the Greathearted. Zedruu the Greathearted is a Jeskai commander. It is blue, red, and white, and an additional one. Legendary creature Minotaur Monk 2/4. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. Tap Jeskai colors. Target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. So the strengths here are giving your opponent permanents that they don't want. that they don't want. So automatically you're thinking things that deal damage to itself, limit its abilities, all that good stuff. But with the new set that came out, Thunder Junctions of Outlaw or Outlaw Thunder of Junction, something like that, the Wild Wild West set, you're gonna find some new stuff. New stuff. And I really like these cards because they actually go well with other decks, surprisingly. But let's stick with Jeskai colors and this commander, Zedruu. The first segment we have is play into its strength, giving opponent an item, or sorry, not an item, a permanent that they don't want, or something that is just able to be given away and triggers its effect. You gain life and draw cards. First up, we have Yes Man, Personal Securitron for 3 CMC, 2 colors, and a white. It's a 2/2 legendary artifact creature robot. Okay. Target opponent, tap it. Target opponent gains control of Yes Man. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on Yes Man. Activate only during your turn. It has the wild card ability. Wild card says, when Yes Man leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tapped 1/1 white soldier creature token for each quest counter on it. So, this is how it plays out. This bad boy has been passed by all of your opponents. And when they do, they get to draw cards. They're going to do that. They're going to tap this boy, draw 2 cards, and give it to somebody else, whether it's you or those 2 other opponents or the opponents remaining, right? And when he finally leaves, he lets you go wide, meaning he's creating 1/1 white soldier tokens for how many quest counters? So if this bad boy's been passed around, Yes Man's been passed around about 3, 5 times. That's 5 tap 1/1 soldier coming into play whenever he leaves the battlefield. So just think, when a board wipe happens, bam, you still got a board state with 5/1/1s, and that's great creature fodder, sack fodder, token. It's like a token generator, trigger the abilities of Zedruu, right? That's crazy. And don't forget, at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards. So you're going to be able to draw at least 1 card for this guy being under your opponent's control. Moving on to a uncommon, which I think is way more powerful than an uncommon, Shifting Grift. Pay 2 blue, sorcery. All right, that's what you cast. It has the ability Spree. Choose 1 or more additional costs. So it's going to cost a total of 4 mana to exchange control of 2 target creatures, a total of 3 mana, exchange control of 2 target artifacts, or a total of 4 mana, exchange control of 2 target enchantments. Now, I may have said this wrong, but you pay an additional cost. So that means you can pay a maximum of 2, 4, 6 mana to do all of these abilities. So this gives you the flexibility of exchanging items that are one of the type of permanents. That is very powerful. It's too flexible. That's why it's powerful. Most of these type of spells are very limited and high CMC. This just says, hey, you want to exchange enchantments, tap a total of 3 mana. If you want to exchange enchantments and creatures, tap a total of 5. What? What? Come on, man. This is crazy. Moving on to the Humble Defector. You know what this bad boy does. Everybody got to have this in their Zedruu deck. It is a 2/1 human rogue. It says tap it, draw 2 cards, target opponent gains control of Humble Defector, activate only during your turn. I do like to say this is a very political card because you can be in cahoots with another player and say, hey, man, I won't do such and such as long as you pass this back to me. Of course, I'm going to give you 2 cards. Others, they're going to be trying to keep the card away from you, right? Which is not what they want to do. They want to give the card back to you so you don't trigger Zedruu. Politics as usual. You know what this segment is all about. If you don't, this is where I reference my favorite Jay-Z song, Politics as Usual, by on the Reasonable Doubt album. I always like to say, hey, add a political effect to your commander deck because it can change the tide of the game drastically because players are put in situations that are beneficial to them and not beneficial to them. And some of them will pay the repercussions of it, and it can work in your favor. It only takes 1 card. Only 1 card. Give this about 5 more seconds. 5, 4. Oh, don't need to. All right, we have Karn the Betrayer from the Warhammer set. 4 mana, 3 colors, red. Legendary creature Astartes Berserker. This card is really good because it's going to go around the board and not die. It's going to attack your opponents and not die. So you're going to be swinging with a very powerful creature and it not leave the battlefield. An opponent will eventually sacrifice some kind of removal to get rid of it. And all at that same time, while you're doing damage to your opponents, you're triggering Zedruu. You're gaining life and drawing cards because this is 1 permanent that is doing it for you. So let me read the card. All right, it's the legendary Astartes Berserker. It has the Berserker ability. Karn the Betrayer attacks or blocks each combat if able. He also has Sigil of Corruption. When you lose control of Karn the Betrayer, draw 2 cards. Hey, with Zedruu, you can just give him away if you tap Jeskai. Also, the Betrayer ability. If damage would be dealt to Karn the Betrayer, prevent that damage and an opponent of your choice gains control of it. So, whenever he's dealing damage, if damage would be dealt to Karn, whenever he's being dealt damage from a blocker or an attacker, it prevent that damage, and an opponent of your choice gains control of it. So that means I could tell the player that's getting hit to gain control of it, and they had to swing somewhere else. Now they can still swing at you to deal you 5 damage. This card is really good just because it's not going to leave the battlefield, and if it's unblocked, somebody's taking 5, and that's heavy. That's heavy. So you're putting players in a conundrum where take 5 or lose a creature. Take 5 or lose a creature. Then it's advantageous because you can give a certain player the creature. Someone who may not have a creature. See this? Just manipulating the board, manipulating the battlefield. Next up we have is the Second Doctor. Another political card. It's from the Doctor Who set. You're going to use this to increase the amount of card draw that you can get and tempt players into using more cards, right? The thing of what I love about Jeskai, you have instant and sorcery, instant speed spells that counter and multiply damage. Red is going to multiply damage. Blue is going to counter. Jeskai is just one of this color pip that is just a beautiful blend, and I feel like it's one of the strongest colors out there. More on the Second Doctor. For 2 colors, white and a blue, legendary Time Lord Doctor. Doctor. It says players have no maximum hand size. Okay. It has the ability, how civil of you. At the beginning of your end step, each player may draw a card. Each opponent who does can attack you or permanents you control during their next turn. So, how would you use this, right? Players are gaining more cards. They're getting more cards. And when they draw a card, they can't attack you. You're protecting yourself. Protecting yourself. The more this is a way to be unattackable. So all those additional combat phases, they can't hit you. They have to waste a resource of eliminating this creature. This creature that just shuts down attack phases. All right, this segment is called Get Your Back. While you're giving stuff away, sometimes you might want it back. I don't know what cards you put in your deck that are devastating for your opponent, or you just exchange control of it for advantageous reasons. You just need to get it back. So, moving on to cards that do that. The first one, Brand. Tap 1 red mana at instant speed, gain control of all permanents you control. Or you own, excuse me. Gain control of all permanents you own at instant speed. Enough said. Enough said. Enough said. All right, the next set of cards are Chaos Warp like. So what I want you to do is think about the card Chaos Warp. You target a permanent, and that player shuffles it back into their library, then flip over the top card, and possibly get it put in the battlefield. Keyword like. So just think of that. First up, we have Zoyoa's Justice. For 2 mana, it's an instant, 1 colors, and 1 red. It reads: the owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater. The owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. The reason why I said that twice, because it's tricky. If you've seen so many cards, you're thinking mana value 1 or less. This says mana value 1 or greater. So it cannot hit 0 CMC tokens or 0 CMC creatures. Then that player discovers X, where X is his mana value. So the higher mana value, the more you get to discover. And the discover mechanic is one of my favorite mechanics. It's like Cascade. So what's going to happen is when you discover, you exile cards from the top of your library until they exile a non-land card with mana value or less. They cast it without paying its mana cost or put it into their hand. So it goes into their hand or they get to cast it for free. Keep in mind, timing rules still apply. So if they pull out, if you use this card on another player's turn and they can't cast a sorcery on their on another player's turn, whatever, it won't happen. It won't happen. Timing rules apply. Sorceries only apply on that player's turn. So another card to get your stuff back, because you can obviously target your own permanents, right? Your own permanents with these spells. Audacious Swap for 3 colors and a red. It's an instant with casualty 2. It says, as you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 2 or greater. When you do, copy the spell. It also says the owner of target non-enchantment permanent shuffles it into their library, then exiles the top card of their library. If it's a land card, they put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, they may cast it without paying its mana cost. So, it's a good way to get rid of artifacts, creatures, lands, tokens. You just can't target enchantments, but you get to double this effect. So any problematic creatures, they're gone. Problematic artifacts. I wish this wasn't a. I wish it did not say non-enchantment, because that is Red's weakness, is eliminating enchantments. But this card is still good if you play it defensively. Offensively, you're gonna want something of your permanents back, and you get to exile the top card of your library. So it's like getting an extra card. All right, junk they don't want. These are spells that players you gave them, right? And it's just going to do bad stuff to them. Now, I feel like these are on the friendly side. So in the next video, I'm going to put some real nasty cards, real salty cards that your opponents are not going to want to have. Let's go. Anyway, Steel Golem for 3 mana is a 3/4 artifact creature. It says you cannot play summon or artifact creature spells. So if you get this your opponent, they can't cast creature spells or artifact creature spells. A lot of players play the artifacts. Cards like this, you're just gonna make your opponent. You're shutting down your opponent pseudo. Maybe you're doing a lot. Either way, they have to find a resource to eliminate this problem. What I do like about the previous cards I told you is, let's say an opponent tries to blow this up. You can save it with Audacious Swap, and it goes back into your library. Then, you get to discover 3 or less. And you got another card in your hand or be able to cast it. That's a win-win. That's a win-win. Next card we have is Rust Elemental. Tap 4. It's a 4/4 flying artifact elemental creature. That sounds weird. Artifact creature elemental? But whatever. This is Fairyland. Ooh, it's from an old set. I forgot. I think it's Mirrodin. Yeah. I remember that little knife. Anyway, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice an artifact other than Rust Elemental. If you can't, tap Rust Elemental and you lose 4 life. So if a player has 0 other artifacts, they gotta tap Rust Elemental and lose 4 life. For no reason. For no reason. For no reason. That's a stupid way to lose life. So if they're not making artifacts to sack, they're losing life. Then who wants to sack the artifacts that they have? They don't want to give up a mana rock. This is a good pseudo board wipe or pseudo control. It's not even a board wipe. It's just pseudo control. Controlling your opponents. Those treasure tokens going to waste because they got to sack into this. Maybe a mana rock going to waste. Soul ring going to waste. Um, and they have to sacrifice it. It's not a May ability. All right, thank you for watching another episode of Breaking Brews. I am Commander Claw. If you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button because I got another video of saltier, meanier cards with Zedruu the Greathearted. If you don't know what he does, go ahead and watch this video over again or comment below on you want to see another video about him. Yeah, peace out.